For everyone who watched my recent episode with Meridith Alexander, which was such an inspiring story, she talks about a very tragic family event that miraculously they got through and came out on the other end and turned it into a gift. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so. It's really good. Part of that episode was a little sub-conversation I had with Meridith about if you're chasing a dream, how you really need to look at it through the lens of the long game. It was such a little motivational clip that I thought I'd post it because, 2024 for me was a year. If you've been following me, you know that I've been on a hiatus for about 5 months and we are back. I'm starting to post more episodes. Listening to myself talk to other people about staying motivated, keep moving forward, just starting. It was exactly the message that I needed to hear from myself to myself. So it's a great little clip, 5 minutes, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I did. Thanks. Yeah. If you're a creative person and you're not creating, and it doesn't matter what it is.
For sure.
You're doing little bits of creativity every day that just feed your soul. When you have something inside you,
right,
if you're not living it, it makes you miserable.
Yes.
It shows up as restlessness, crying at every turn, being crabby and bitchy, not being able to focus because you're just spinning around, or depression.
Yes.
But maybe the thing that you want to do, it's just not possible for you to do it right now. But if you can, this is my point coming back, sorry. If you can think of the long game, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, and if you want a dream for yourself, think about the long game, because a year from now is going to happen. Right. That whole cliche, a year from now, you wish you would have started a year ago, right? It does happen, and you get better and better and better. When you talk about how you can change yourself and it's super hard, you can. And especially if you have time to do it and you can build to it, and it doesn't have to be the second, but you do have to start. You need to do something.
Yes. And I think that, one of the big places that we, psych ourselves out is we believe the clouds open and the choir of angels start singing, rather than saying, oh my gosh, I have to go from here. What's that 1%? Like you, I work with a lot of people who, first of all, don't know what that next big step is. They are so fixated on what it must show up looking like in order for it to be their it, that they're often overlooking the it that is already rumbling and saying, pick me, pick me.
I 100% agree with that. I think when you start dreaming and you start having an idea and you really think, I think I might do this, and you vet it, you talk to people about it. You think that I have to start it now because I want it to happen. And you also, like you said, you have a picture of what that dream turning into reality is going to look like. And I think that what people forget is that if you're on the right path, because if you're on the wrong path, you run into walls. They're little messages that the universe is saying, might want to pivot, right? But when you're on the right path, your hurdles only feel like little bumps that you can get over. When you have to work so hard at something and you're really having to pivot, and it doesn't feel right, when you're like, no, this was my dream and I'm just going to keep doing it. Usually it's the wrong path and you need to pivot at some point, right?
Yes.
But what happens is, when you are on the right path, even if it's difficult, because I'm sure you would agree, being an entrepreneur is hard.
Yes.
It is hard and it is lonely. Be prepared.
For sure.
Worth it in the end, but it's hard. But if you are on the right path, small miracles start to happen.
Yes.
You have to be able to recognize them for what they are. But what happens is someone that you had no idea even existed on the planet shows up in your life.
Yes.
Or there's a chance encounter that you have. You could be standing next to somebody at Starbucks, right? Or, walking on the street, walking your dog, right? And you meet somebody and they're exactly the person that you needed. They actually move your dream forward. And the only reason it worked is because you had the dream in the first place and you're working towards it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had a conversation about your dream.
Absolutely.
And then what happens too is doors just start opening. I mean, that's a cliche too, But
Yeah.
that's another small miracle that happens. And then you don't have to call them small miracles. You know, they can be whatever you think. But they start happening when you're going in the right direction and moving forward.
Absolutely.
It also happens with relationships too. It doesn't have to be just a business venture or an idea. When you are actually get to a place where you know yourself well enough and you're healthy enough mentally and emotionally to start moving into another relationship, you know how they say when you're not looking for somebody, they just show up. You end up meeting somebody that feeds your soul in some way that at that time you really needed that person in your life and you didn't know it. Small miracles, right? That's another little thing that showed up. That means your dream is happening.
Absolutely. You know, Diana, what you said is so good. And what I can't help but think at the same time, I look back at myself several years ago, and if I had heard all of this, all these miracles showing up in my life, there was a time when I would have said, Diana, that all sounds great, but that's not what's showing up for me.
Yeah, I get that.
Right?
Yeah, I get that.
There are those moments. And if you're listening to us, you may be in one of those moments. And yet, even those end up being a profound piece in the story, don't they?
Yeah,